Republic of Austria v. Altmann.
Austrian-American Maria Altmann discovered that art which belonged to her family before World War II had been taken by the Austrian government and was being exhibited in a gallery. Altmann sought to recover the paintings, which were extremely valuable and created by a famous Austrian painter, stating that her uncle had given the pieces to her in his will.
Altmann sued the Austrian government through the U.S. court system, with the case eventually being heard by the Supreme Court.
Altmann claimed that the artwork had been acquired through unjust means by the Nazi regime and that legally the artwork belonged to her.
Austria argued for sovereign immunity and that the United States court did not have the jurisdiction to hear or decide the case.
Was the United States required by domestic law to grant sovereign immunity, or did the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act apply to limit this authority? Did the policy apply retroactively, meaning that it applied to actions that had occurred before it was established? Considering in this case, Austria had acquired the paintings after World War II, therefore the act had occurred before the FSIA.
The Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act took up a restrictive theory on applying sovereign immunity in the U.S., where the courts consider the public acts of a sovereign and do not always accept the classical theory of sovereign immunity, meaning a sovereign cannot be sued or be a respondent in the courts of another state without their consent. Prior to this legislation, the United States almost always granted sovereign immunity based heavily on executive branch decisions. The previous policy was to request immunity in all cases against a friendly sovereign or allied state.
The FSIA did apply to the case and also to claims based on conduct that happened before the establishment of the Act. U.S. Supreme Court held that foreign sovereign immunity is a matter of grace and comity, not a constitutional requirement.
Congress established this legislation to codify the restrictive principle, which is generally accepted within international law. The FSIA gives the power to federal courts to preside over civil actions against foreign sovereigns, stating the exceptions to its general grant of immunity. The goal was to limit the political participation in granting sovereign immunity.
FSIA applied retroactively because of the wording used. Claims should henceforth be decided by United States courts. Therefore, immunity claims and not actions or conduct are relevant to the FSIA. This means that although the conduct of Austria occurred before the enactment of the FSIA, their claim of sovereignty that would give them immunity from the court occurred after.
This ruling set the precedent for the United States to apply the FSIA to conduct that occurred before its enactment. Altmann and Austria agreed to arbitration in Austria, where she was awarded the ownership of all of the pieces of art.